Coping versus emotional healing is our topic tonight. The difference between them and why we need both. This is a big topic. I feel like every week I say that because every week it is a big topic. But this one I feel like is especially important because we have kind of been programmed to feel like coping is the gold standard of emotional competence and being like mature, good adults. But the truth is that there's something else that's available. We don't always just have to cope. Our emotional triggers, our emotional traumas don't need to stay stuck in our psyche where they are. They can change over time. We can heal them, but not if we always just cope with them. So we need to know the difference between coping with a feeling and healing a feeling. Okay. So tonight I have 3 bullet points. I usually have 4, but tonight I just have 3. We're going to go over the first one is the difference, obviously, between coping and emotional healing. We need to define what we're talking about here. The second one is I want to look at when coping mechanisms are really helpful in getting us through, like when they are needed, because they are. We need coping mechanisms. So when you need them, but then when you have an opportunity to do deeper healing and how you can accept that invitation to do that deeper healing. And the third one is how your coping mechanisms can be used as flags to help you get into deeper emotional healing, but also help you foster a relationship with yourself that's like based in emotional honesty and honoring and celebrating who you are and loving who you are. Okay. What's the difference between coping and emotional healing? So this is the way I think about it. When you have a trigger that comes up, your coping mechanism, the walk that you're going to take, the food that you're going to eat, the exercise you're going to medicate yourself with, the puffing up that you're going to do, the hiding, the people pleasing, whatever it is that your coping mechanism is, that's helping you skip over the feeling or distract yourself from it so you don't have to feel it. Or it can just lessen it for you. So coping mechanisms basically go, I've got something uncomfortable that's coming up. And right now in this moment, I'm not feeling safe to feel it, or I'm just not willing to feel this one at all because this is an emotion that I don't like to play with. There's something going on here where I'm not wanting to feel this thing. So instead of feeling this thing, I'm going to call on this other behavior, this other emotion. Maybe when you get angry, you go straight to gratitude because you don't want to feel the anger. Maybe when you feel awkward, you go straight to humor. Humor is your coping mechanism so that everybody feels okay. And, or maybe when you're sad, also maybe humor is your coping mechanism, right? We can think of like infinite things that we do to distract ourselves from whatever we're thinking and feeling. So the coping mechanism is there to steer you toward an emotion that you're more comfortable feeling, or to steer you toward just like changing the scenario, distracting yourself from it, just skipping over it entirely, acting like it's not happening. Okay. What this does is it does help us survive in certain situations where you really aren't safe to feel, and it's just not the time and the place. Like when you're at a family gathering and there are some people in your family that are hard for you and you get asked a question that makes you feel uncomfortable, deflecting sometimes is the best option because the truth wouldn't be able to be heard in that group of people, or might ruffle feathers. And maybe you're like, it's not worth it. This is a truth that I don't need to share. Maybe if your opinion differs from the people at the table, but you just don't want to fight, then you deflect, right? You can use a coping mechanism. You can change what people are focusing on, right? So it's helpful in those moments. But in other moments where it's you with your partner, who is, I would hope, one of your safest people in the world for you to be honest with, if you have a feeling that comes up that you don't want to feel, and you go to that humor, or you go to changing the subject, or you puff up, or you do whatever it is that you do, you numb it out, you don't want to look at it, then what happens in that moment is you have an opportunity with that person and on your own, in your own space, to really look at what came up for me back there. What was it that I was feeling uncomfortable looking at? Why did I puff up? You can look underneath the coping mechanism. And if you do this, what you're going to find is that every single time you call on your coping mechanisms, again, because you're overwhelmed, you're feeling something that's uncomfortable, or you're just generally having a hard time and you want to break, you're going to notice every single time that happens, there's something tender under there. You're feeling something tender. Your heart is broken. You're not feeling safe. You're not feeling connected to someone that's important to you. There is something that is going on under there. And for some reason, we as human beings, when we take the time to actually be with ourselves in that emotion and allow ourselves to witness it, the emotion moves through. We can actually have an embodied expression of that emotion, and then it leaves. It doesn't hang out. So why is this important? If you're like, well, if I can distract myself or feel it, like, why can't I just distract myself every time? Because either way, like if you're saying that it goes when I feel it, I can get to it going a lot faster if I distract myself or cope. And yes, in the moment, I would agree with you that that is a band aid to get you away from that feeling faster. But if we've learned anything, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I bring Eileen McKusick in every time. Here we are, 10 minutes in, I'm bringing Eileen in. Eileen McKusick studies the human biofield, and she has for over 30 years. And what she's shown us is that every feeling that we don't feel through in the moment gets pushed into the toric field that is around our body, and it hangs out there. She documents where the emotions hang out and specifically which emotions hang out where in our biofield. It's very cool. She has a book called Electric Body, Electric Health that you should check out if you haven't already. Eileen really should be paying me for referring people to her book. She isn't. I don't earn anything from telling you to do that. I just believe in Eileen's work, and it's been a game changer for me to have research that backs up what I'm telling you to do. So I love sending people to her because I think science is really helpful for us in understanding our healing process. So for some reason, when we feel emotion, it comes in the form of energy. It creates sensations in our body. And so our job in any moment where we're feeling is to pause and see if we can be with that sensation and have an embodied expression of it. And if we can have an embodied expression of it, meaning if we can cry, if we can access tears, if we can express it in a healthy way, then what happens is the energy moves through, the sensation goes away, and on the other side, we feel relief and we have more knowledge of ourselves because that emotion came up in a moment where something wasn't aligned for you, something more was available, you deserve to be spoken to differently. There's a group of people who deserves to be treated differently. Like you're seeing something out in the world or in your life that you know is not the way it needs to be. We have dissonance in our system when we see things that don't align with love, safety, and connection. We want to see other humans safe. We want people to be supported in their communities. We want people to feel loved. We want all of these things for ourselves. So when those three things are not present, when one of those things is missing or all of them, dissonant emotion comes in and it goes, this isn't it. You got to pause, human, and you got to notice what's happening here because there is something else that is available for you or for somebody else. I'm just feeling called for some reason to just add in a side note that I would put fulfillment in the connection category. Fulfillment is you being connected to yourself and your gift. If fulfillment is not present, you're going to have dissonant emotion. Okay? If you're not feeling connected to yourself, if you're not feeling emotionally honest with yourself, if you're not acknowledging what is happening for you, the direction you need to go in, the gifts that you have, the boundaries that you're needing to set, if you're not acknowledging those things, if you're not being real with yourself about them, you're disconnected from you. You're not fully connected to yourself. You're not honoring and loving yourself. You're going to have dissonant emotion that comes in, okay? So dissonant emotion is just a flag. It's just going, whoa, can you pause? This isn't it. What are you feeling? I'm not getting into this tonight, but I break up emotions into two different categories, resistance and tender feeling. If what you're feeling is resistance, anger, irritation, frustration, blame, judgment, any of that shit that we aim at other people, if you're feeling any of that, you're just going to swim in what you're in for a while. If your focus stays on being angry at the other person, stays focused on who's to blame and all the judgment that you're feeling, you're not going to do any healing there because all you're doing is just kicking up more. You're feeding this like really dissonant fire and you're just going to create some suffering for yourself. You're also wasting your energy. Okay. What do they say about anger? It's like drinking the poison yourself and thinking the other person's going to die, right? It's like your anger it doesn't affect the other person. You might get a rise out of them for a moment, but like you're not solving the thing by aiming your anger at anybody. Okay. So noticing if you're in resistance, or noticing like, oh, am I in like a tender feeling? Am I looking around at things and I'm feeling angry because I love these people so much and I just want us to get along? Am I feeling really helpless because I'm watching someone that I really love make a decision that is going to cause them pain or potential pain, right? We don't always know. Your heart's broken somewhere. Underneath your resistance, every single time there's probably helplessness. And every single time your heart is broken somewhere. Okay. So you want to just really be looking out for what's underneath. Okay. So every single time, if we can arrive back to noticing what is underneath our reaction and our dissonant emotion, and we go to the feeling underneath, there's emotional healing there. So if we bring this back to coping, if in the moment where your dissonant emotion comes up, you're immediately like, nope, not feeling that, going in the other direction, not doing this right now. That's fine if you're with a group of people that you're not wanting to feel that with. Like, that's fine. Make the joke. Like, if you need to people please to get through that, like, go for it. If you just want to change the subject and talk about something else, like, that's fine. Manage your own energy. Figure out what your most authentic with yourself, but like your way through is. What's the path of least resistance for you right now? That's okay. You're a human being. We all need that in moments, you know? If you've just had something happen to you and you feel like you're about to burst into tears, but you're surrounded by people that you don't feel safe with, you cope in that moment, or you excuse yourself, you know? Like, you get to wait to feel things through when you feel. These are the 3 things you need to feel and do emotional work, okay? You need the time, because it takes more than 5 seconds to feel into something that needs your healing, needs your compassionate witnessing, okay? So you need a little bit of time, maybe 5 minutes. But like, maybe you need a lot more than that, depending on what's coming up. Okay. So you need the time for whatever it is. You need the willingness, right? If you're exhausted at the end of the day and you don't have any gas in your tank, you're not going to do emotional healing, because you need to be present with yourself in order to do healing work. So if you're like, you know what, this day has been really intense, I've been maxed out, and I really just want to relax. I want to put on music that I enjoy. I want to do my puzzle. I want to dance around my house. I want to just sit and be with my kids. I want to do something else. I don't want to do emotional healing right now. That's okay. Good. You're not willing at the moment, and your life is calling you in a different direction. Totally fine. So you need the time and you need the willingness. Okay. And then you need, I call this one privacy or safety. So it depends on what you need. Some of us, myself, feel very comfortable crying in front of the internet. And pretty much anybody. Well, it depends, I guess. If it's someone that I have history with, and they have a history of not being very emotionally available for me, I do notice that I kind of, if I start to cry, will manage it. But if it's my people who are tuned in for my live, or, it's me with my nephews or my parents or my sister, and I'm just talking about things, like, I feel very comfortable to fall apart. So for me, I don't need privacy to cry, because I feel safe to cry with those people. But for a lot of folks, especially if you're just getting back to a place where you can start to feel things again, you might feel like there is no way I'm crying within earshot of anyone in my life. And so you might need a lot of privacy in order to cry. So I just like to throw these things out there: the time, the willingness, and the privacy or safety, because there are going to be moments where, like, you really want to feel something and you're like, I can't feel it. Why can't I connect to it? I can intellectually understand what I'm feeling, but I'm not able to feel it. Why? It's because you're not feeling safe to feel it. There's something that's preventing you. Okay. You need to move where you are. You need to check your judgments of yourself and your feelings. This is a topic for another night, but there's something there where you're not feeling, you don't have the safety that you need to feel that through. Okay. So in a moment where you actually do have the time, the willingness, and the safety, if you actually do go in and feel that feeling, this is like a really, really long roundabout. But I'm going to bring us back to the biofield right now, and Eileen, and why we don't want to just distract ourselves every time because in the long term, we want to feel and get competent with this. The reason that we want to do this and not distract ourselves every time and cope every time is that every time an energy comes in, an emotional energy comes in that is asking for your compassionate witnessing to be felt, when you don't feel as much of that as you can, whatever is left over at the end of you trying to feel or trying not to feel that feeling, whatever's left of that is getting pushed into your biofield. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays a dissonant standing waveform in the toric field around your body. Again, Eileen McKusick has been documenting this for 30 years. Electric Body, Electric Health, again, is her book. Please check her research out. It is fascinating. So the emotions that you don't feel, they don't go anywhere. This is why you can have a trigger that feels really small, or you can watch someone else experience a trigger that seems really small and they can fly off the handle. They can have like a really, really, really big response to something that makes absolutely no sense to you, because it's bringing up an emotion or reminding them of other experiences they've had where they've had a deep emotion that they didn't want to feel. And all of that latent energy is in their biofield and it's getting triggered. So all of this energy all of a sudden has come in and is asking to be cleared. And it's so much for that person that they're resisting it. Okay. They're freaking out. So you don't want to keep pushing stuff into your biofield, because you know what? I want you to sit and just think about the people that you know in your life. And I want you to think about older people in your life. This could be your parents. This could be aunts, uncles, grandparents, people in your wider community, clients that you have. I don't know what your life is like, but think about older people. Okay. Do you know within that group of people, any people who are unwilling to feel things or push things down or are uncomfortable with their feelings, and that over time they've become more numb? They've lost some of their humor. They've become really easily irritated. They're really depressed. They have really intense anxiety, or they're just not the person, like maybe they're curmudgeon-y, they're just negative. All of these things are things that happen to us over time when we stuff our feelings. We get weighed down more and more and more because we're carrying so much. You deserve not to carry so much. You deserve to have the ability, the skill set to feel things through when they come in, so that you're not shoving things in your biofield, so that you don't lose your sense of humor over time, so that you don't become a shadow of the person that you are, or you don't become just a walking list of resentments. We all know people like that, who are just resentful and irritated, or who just don't want to talk about difficult things anymore. And so when we become that way, we put up walls between ourselves and other people, and we get lonelier. It gets harder to connect to other people when we aren't willing to feel our feelings, because you know what? Also, when we're not willing to feel our feelings, it means we're not willing to be with other people when they're feeling their feelings. Right? It means you probably distract other people. You probably try to solve their problem and you don't have room for them to just land and just feel whatever they're feeling and let it move through. Okay. The good news is you are wired. You came in wired to feel deeply. It's part of the human makeup. We cry to clear energy from our system. It's a natural thing that all of us do, but most of us have learned over time to stifle it because of the social situations that we find ourselves in. Okay. Our society encourages us to stifle our emotion. So you have my permission going forward. When it's you with you, can you laugh at how ridiculous it is that you're judging energy that's coming into your body to create sensations? Like, it's energy. It doesn't say anything about you that you feel sadness sometimes. Every human on the planet feels sadness sometimes. It doesn't say anything about you that you don't know everything about every subject and you're not perfectly masterful at every task on the planet. Okay? So when you feel incompetent, other humans, every other human on the planet feels incompetent unless they have crafted a life that does not challenge them anymore. And what fun is that? Okay? Every single person who is growing, who is creative, who is out there living fully feels incompetent sometimes, feels really silly for doing things too quickly and making mistakes sometimes. Every single human has said something or says things. Not even has. We do this all the time. Every single human says things to other humans that causes the other person pain. Everybody does that. It says nothing about you that you have that experience other than welcome. Welcome to the club. You're a human being. Okay. So we've got to start looking at our judgments of ourselves and of the people around us for having emotions and for like doing very human things. We have made our very existence wrong. We have made our emotions wrong. Your emotions are just energy. They're just coming in to guide you to the thing that's going to make you feel the most fulfilled. So when you're not on the path to the most fulfillment for yourself, your whole being goes, whoa, no, please, whoa, stop, please stop. Whoa, slow it down. This isn't it. Human, chill. Look around you. Okay. So, this is just a beautiful opportunity for you to just be with you and notice again when you're by yourself. Am I judging myself for the feeling that I'm having? Am I judging myself for the pain that I'm experiencing in my life, for not knowing how to do something, for having said something that caused someone else pain, for having made a choice that evolved in a way that ended up in a way that I wasn't anticipating? Like, am I shoulding on myself? Am I beating on myself? Because if I'm doing that, I'm making it very difficult for myself to feel my feelings. Okay. So, in the moments where it's you with you, please find some humor in how ridiculous we have made this whole thing around emotions. Grieve what you can grieve. And then you want to just be a compassionate witness. The more that we accept the invitation to actually get underneath there and look for what we're feeling underneath the coping mechanism, the more that we give ourselves an opportunity to not shove more energy in our field, just suppress things. And so over the long run, what that means is like you're not going to blow up as much. And as I was talking about before, you're not going to become a shadow of who you are now. You can like maintain your joyfulness. You can not have resentments. You can feel safe to set boundaries. Like all of your relationships will benefit from you actually being willing to do emotional healing work and not cope every time. Because if you're not coping with your own feelings, you're not coping with other people's feelings. It means that when someone else is falling apart, you just have presence and you don't try to solve it for them and you don't try to distract them. You just love them in that moment. And that can allow them to feel more of the feelings that are coming up for them, which heals them more. So people really, I find this all the time in one-on-one sessions. I can't tell you how many people come into my office and sit on my couch and just within the first 15 minutes go, this is crazy. I'm like crying right now and I don't ever cry. Do people just cry with you? And the answer is, yeah, people just cry with me because I don't have any judgments about anything anybody feels. There's nothing anyone can sit on my couch and tell me that is shocking or going to cause them to receive judgment from me. I am just present. Human feeling is such a beautiful thing when someone allows themselves to feel in front of you. It's such an honor to be able to be there and compassionately witness that for that person. And so that's the space that I hold for other people that I feel safe with. I feel very safe with my clients. I will say I don't feel safe with every single person in my life. I certainly don't hold loving space for every single person to land because I don't think that's healthy. I think that we hold loving space for our people, our close people, the people that are important to us. We hold space for them to land and for people that we feel safe with. But we are not doormats and we don't make ourselves available to people who don't treat us well. So I just want to put that little caveat in there. But the people who are close to you, I can't tell you how many people over the last really 2 years have had some time with me, especially if they hadn't had time with me for a long time, like for a while. There are 2 people that come to mind that have said, Claire, you're really different than I remember you being before. Like you feel really different to me. And I have to imagine that's because I'm more in my heart and I have more presence for people because I feel my feelings when they come up and I don't have an aversion to them. So I'm like more in my body when I'm with people. And I think people feel that. So coping is an important thing when we're in a group of people, when our lives are really fast, when you're in the middle of an emergency, when you're with people that you don't feel safe with, when you just kind of have something that you need to get through, when you don't have the time, the willingness, and the safety or privacy to feel like, yeah, cope, but put a pin in it. Remember the moment that you coped and go back later. If you want to do emotional healing and you don't know where to start by using your coping mechanisms. This is one of our bullets. Start by using your coping mechanisms as flags to stop and notice what you're feeling. I'll tell you a story. I used to eat my feelings, okay? Like in a big way. If I was feeling, I didn't even have to be consciously feeling something. I would just I had low level, just I don't know, when I'm thinking of this memory, this wasn't from a time when I had anxiety. It wasn't from a time that I was depressed. But right after I moved to Maine in 2018, I started dating someone and he ended our relationship after 3 months. This was about a week after that. And I had driven down to Portland, Maine, and gone to the Whole Foods and did some shopping down there. And I was driving back. I was not even 5 minutes outside Portland. I was on the freeway, and it was kind of like I blacked out. I didn't black out. I was aware. But I kind of came to with the music on really loud. And I had eaten half of this box of cookies that I had bought. Like my hand was in the box of cookies. And all of a sudden I was like, Claire, you're coping. You're coping with something. You do not want to feel something that's going on right now. So at this time, I had been doing mirror work for 5 years by then. I learned about Louise Hay's mirror work protocol back in 2013, but hadn't been doing it on a regular basis, but knew that if I was having a hard time, looking at myself in the mirror was helpful. So I turned off my music and I took my rear view mirror and I aimed it toward myself. And I said, girl, I took my hand out of the box of cookies, step away from the cookies. And I said, girl, what is going on? While looking in my own eyes, and I immediately burst into tears. And it was like the devastation of this breakup really set in for me. Before the relationship that I was in that just ended in January, that was it would have been 4 years in April, which was my longest relationship. And before that, the last boyfriend that I had was this person. And 3 months was kind of my average back then. I didn't have long relationships because I'm a deep person. I'm a very strong-willed person. And it's hard. There are a lot of humans out there who that's just too much for. They can't hang, and it's okay. We all need different things. So 3 months, even though that isn't a long time, that was a long time for me. And I feel like every single time I was in a relationship and it just fell apart after a few weeks or a few months, the resilience that it takes to love yourself through that and put yourself back out there is immense. I bet that I've been on over 100 first dates in my life. And to go through that amount of meeting new people and hoping you're going to find your person and all of that stuff, the hopes that you get up, to then survive that, have it all fall apart when you've gotten really deeply attached to somebody and pick yourself up again, it's an exhausting process when it happens over and over and over again. This story of me with my hand in the box of cookies is just a perfect example. I used to eat my feelings. That was my coping mechanism. But because I knew that that was one of my coping mechanisms, I had already gotten into it. I had already eaten a bunch of cookies. That's okay. I caught myself in the middle of doing that. And that was such a big win for me because before I probably would have eaten the entire box of cookies, and then I probably would have stopped at another store on the way home and gotten another box of cookies and probably eaten that one by the next day. And so the fact that I caught myself in the middle and I didn't shame myself for it and I let myself fall apart was such a big win. And this is separate from that, but the completion of the story is that I was living with my sister and her husband, and I just had the one nephew at that time. Emmer hadn't been born yet. Yeah, we were living in the same house together. And so my brother-in-law and my nephew were upstairs. My brother-in-law was getting Burley to bed. And so my sister was sitting on the couch immediately when I walked in the door. Our living room was like right inside the door of that first apartment we lived in. And because I had been so cracked open on the ride, I really did try to gather myself before I came in the house. But I'm so glad that I wasn't able to, because when I came in the house and I was barely holding it together, I just remember that I walked in and my sister was sitting on the couch. And because I hadn't been able to pull myself together, I still had tears in my eyes. And she just took one look at me and she went, "Oh, what is it?" And I just let myself crumble. I put all my bags on the floor, and my sister, she's only done this twice. She did this that night, and she did this the night that I knew my relationship was over in January. She's done this to me twice. It makes me tear up because it means so much to me. Such a beautiful thing that she offers me when I really need it. She just opened her arms and she just let me just put my head like on her shoulder and just fall apart. And it was such a beautiful thing to just get to sob into her. And I want to give you that image of just being held by someone who loves you and is just letting you cry and is not trying to change it, but just opens their arms to let you rest your head on their chest and their shoulder. This is the energy we're giving to ourselves. You can offer this kind of energy to yourself, okay? You can be so gentle with you. You deserve your own love. You deserve your own soft place to land with you. Find a mirror, look in it, and say, "Girl, what is going on?" Look for the tears in your own eyes and let yourself fall apart. Give yourself a safe place to land. Notice any judgments that come up. Notice any aversion that you have to your feeling and see if you can just come into your body and just be with the feeling that is there while offering yourself a really loving, compassionate place. So, anyway, I just want to bring you this example of what it looks like to really catch yourself and use a coping mechanism as a flag to go in and allow yourself to feel something. Your coping mechanisms are screaming at you that you're feeling something. So, if you don't know what yours are, start to keep an eye out for them. Start to keep an eye out for when your body feels uncomfortable, when you're starting to go into like an anxious monologue and you're not feeling happy, connected, creative, joyful. Like when you're feeling tension and I don't know, some of us like to control when we're having a hard time. If you're finding that you're having a hard time not controlling everything around you, that's a really good one. Control is a coping mechanism. Just start keeping an eye out for where you're avoiding feeling things, where you're just like having a hard time, if you're an eater and you're not tasting your food, you're coping, okay? You're using food as a coping mechanism. If when you're having a hard time, you want to go to the gym and you want to exercise, you need to look out for that because that's a coping mechanism. Do we want to exercise our bodies? Yes. Do we want to use exercise as a way to avoid our emotions? No. You can change your physical, emotional state inside by releasing endorphins, by exercising. But when you do that, you didn't heal your ability to feel that feeling. You didn't gain any wisdom from that. You didn't take any time to like absorb what your human is trying to have communicated to it about what's happening around you. Remember, your dissonant emotions are here to lead you toward like ultimate alignment, toward what is there that is like honoring for you and what is possible. There is something greater that is possible. There is some self knowledge. So, with that, I think that we understand the difference between coping and actual emotional healing. And obviously, the emotional healing part is a whole framework within itself. It's a deep dive. It's reorienting the way we think about ourselves, the way we speak to ourselves, the way we arrive to our feelings, the way we understand our feelings. It really is a new perspective on ourselves and for ourselves in our lives.